Listen up, Rangers. Welcome to the Geek Chest. My name's Steve, and today, if you hear some stuff in the background, a lot of there's construction happening over yonder. On the others, another house is doing things with their house too. They're currently redoing like their back deck area. We're doing the windows over here, so it's been a good time in the neighborhood with a lot of power equipment going off. But anyways, listen up, Rangers. Welcome to the Geek Chest. My name's Steve. Probably should try to enunciate a little better. I think I said ring yarns, but we're just going to keep all this in. But today in this Stevie's Custom Monstrosity video, we worked on these guys a little bit on stream. So if you guys are interested, there's probably a link down there. You can see the live streams. Or just make sure you subscribe so when I go live, you'll be up to date on these things. So, all right. First and foremost, we have OG SC's Monsterarts Anguirus, as you can see as the base figure for these two. I just kind of wanted to grab one just for comparison reasons because this is my version. We're going to save the fun one for the last, so you'll see over here. But I want to call it's definitely the simpler of the two in terms of customs. But what this one's supposed to look like is more during the 1974 fight with him versus MechaGodzilla. So the primary, it's kind of hard to tell, but you can see a little bit on camera that this guy's just just brown plastic. Well, this actually did a little bit of brown dry brushing over top of it, so that it gives it a little bit more of a dirt look to it. Because the initial picture the scene that I was looking at is when Godzilla is grabbing him by the jaw and about to break it, and that's kind of where I got the color scheme from. So he's got a little bit more gray going on with the skin. And then he had a little bit of a yellowish underbelly going on too. So I did some dry brushing there just to help highlight that. For the most part, the other modifications that I had to do, you'll see Anguirus here does not have the fangs anymore like he did with the original. Because when you watch the movie, he actually doesn't have them. So when working on the other Anguirus hanging out over here, I had to remove a lot of the claws on the hands and the tail. So I just repurposed a couple of them for the fangs. So he just got normal teeth now. So I just cut him to size, glued him in, and then just touched him up with a little bit of paint, just so it kind of blends with everything else. So he doesn't have the curving fangs anymore. And also, I had to shorten the top horns here as well. So you'll see these ones are a little bit more elongated than they are in here. Because for some odd reason, when you watch the movie, they definitely seem a little shorter. These two primarily, oops, back at the camera. So it should be more of kind of a circle going around. It's very uniform. Instead of having the larger two here kind of protruding out a little bit more. So I actually had to cut these and then re-glue them on, then went around them with epoxy putty. You can see a little bit of the very detail there. Tried to blend it as well as I could. And then also the epoxy putty, if the tail stops smacking the other, okay, you just lay down. Smacking it. But just covered them in epoxy. It helps to keep them in too, so you don't have to worry about these popping off relatively easily. And then yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. Like I said, nothing super complicated. The only other thing, and if I can find it really quick without having, there it is, to turn off the camera, is we had an extra head from the 55 Anguirus. So also made a broken jaw version to go along with it. So when Godzilla is like prying the mouth open, you just see like the gargling blood just like dripping out of the mouth. So I made that too. The only thing that sucks with Anguirus, and probably my biggest gripe with this figure, is how easy it is pop this lower jaw off. And then I also resized the jaws here too, and also reused again some of the extra spikes we had laying around from cutting them off Anguirus, the 55, to redo the teeth up here as well. And then I was just clear coating and then doing a gloss inside of the mouth and the eyes just to make sure it still had a little bit of that shine when we were done. And then for the big mamma jamma, and the one that was definitely a bit more of a process, we have 55 Anguirus, which used the same body as these guys. But the primary difference is the back here is actually from the movie Monster series. So we heated up, ripped off the original shell, and then glued this one onto the back after cutting it off and shaving it a bit. So it doesn't quite look like that it came from a vinyl figure. Would it be kind of cool if we had an extra one of these to make the split in the back so you could do some of the poster looks? Would have been kind of sweet. The head is from a magnet. So the magnet was just like pretty much a statue with a little magnetic piece in the back. And then what I had to do here, and I'll actually pop off the head just to show you. We had to Dremel it out a little bit so I could insert a joint into the back of the head. And I thickened the joint so it would still attach over the original. And then sanded it down. Used a little bit of epoxy putty just to make it look more like a neck. Because if I did epoxy putty, it would actually be a little too thin for the way the neck is. The statue actually kind of stretches inward the farther it went back. So when epoxying it, I just kind of thickened it up a little bit so that it filled in the space a little bit better. Then I also had to take off the jaw, and then we added a little hinge joint here so that Anguirus can actually open and close his mouth. Problem is, just the way it's designed, it's not very good at fully closing the mouth. I kept this kind of loose. Also had to drill a hole in here just to be able to insert it. But I kept it kind of loose just so you can play with the joint a little bit more to help open and close it a little bit. But like I said, the way the teeth are designed, it's pretty much like the natural closing point is right here. But other than chopping that off and then sanding it down a little bit just to be able to make sure that the joint fit in, everything else is pretty much OG to that magnet, other than it's been repainted. Because it's on the original, the horns and stuff were a lot more of a brighter white. While I wanted to try to keep it more in like grayscales was the plan for this. And the only other real epoxying I did was we decided to put the suit line here, because in the movie he had like a little stitch scar, and it shows up on the X Plus too. So we thought that would be like a fun little inclusion to have this on the neck here. And then also with the hands here too. This one likes to pop out a little bit. But I reused the parts of the original hand. I'm going to glue that back in before I send it. Forgot that one. Do I have to? I think I just moved that one a little bit too far. Should pop right back in. There we go. But reuse parts of the original hand. And then the outer bit is actually from the Bandai vinyl because we kind of wanted it to have more of like a posable thumb look. So I glued the vinyl to the part of the hand after chopping the hand in half, and then epoxying around it just to kind of try to blend it a little bit better. Overall, I think it came out pretty good. Hides really well with the figure. So now he's got a little bit more of like a grappler look to him instead of just like the more smacky hands like the original one had. And then for probably the other most time consuming part is you'll also see he doesn't have any of the little claws on the legs anymore, because on the original 55 it didn't have those. So I had to cut all them off, and then I went around with a Dremel and just kind of smoothed it out a little bit just to not make it look nearly like somebody just took a blade to this and called it a day. And try to blend it in with a little bit better with the details. But you could definitely, looking at it, you can see where they used to be, but I think, like I said, it blends in a lot better now. Also removed the little frill thing here going along the tail piece too, that you can see on this. So I had to remove all of these, and then these are the little spike bits I was talking about that are removed. And also, finally, you'll notice Anguirus also doesn't have nearly as many spikes as the original had. And looking at the X Plus, and if I can line it up, you'll kind of see what I did. Is on the X Plus that we're using as a reference, it would have one spike and then 2 spikes kind of somewhere symmetrical on each side, and then be 1 spike, 2 spike, 1 spike, 2 spike, 1 spike, 2 spike. And I did that all the way down except for the tip. Use 1 spike, 1 spike. And then it didn't have the little claw at the end, so I just sanded it down and then went over it with epoxy to, again, kind of blend it in with the tail, which I think looks really good too. Looks like he's got just a normal tail tip. And then that's pretty much it for this guy. And honestly, I've done a lot of customs over the years, and I'm going to say this one's probably, I think, in terms of strategy and just overall customizing effectiveness, I think this might be one of the best ones I've done so far. Definitely up there in terms of one of my favorites. The only thing is, like I said, I would like to have the jaw in a little bit tighter, but it stays in really well as long as I don't mess around with it and loosen it too much. But like I said, I want it to be able to shift a little bit depending on how open and closed you want to try to make it. But I think the back came out really good. The hands are good. Like, all the sculpting looks really solid. Like, this sitting on a shelf, initial glance, you wouldn't think that this was a repurposed custom figure. And then this one actually, like I said, came out... Oh, actually, that's the original. I was like, wait a minute, you got Tusk. Wrong one. This one also came out really good. But like I said, he was more simplistic for the job. So again, looks legit, but I didn't have to modify him that much. So he'd be one of those, like, you look around like, I didn't know what Monsterarts made this thing. You'd be like, oh, it's because they didn't. But really pleased with how both of these guys came out. You can let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. I feel like we need to get a 55 to go along with him. Problem is you'd use, like, oops, not sure what fell over. The Monsterarts here probably is the base, and then finding a head would be probably the most challenging thing to go along with it. But I think it would work really well. But yeah, this is definitely up there with, like, the Godzilla and, like, my Guyver are some of my favorite ones I've done so far. But like I said, you can let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. You also got to help us defeat those kaijus by hitting the like button. Subscribe, become a Ranger today. We also got Instagram, Patreon, TikTok, Facebook. Guys like Keep Up the Day with channel, donate, greatly would appreciate. Guys like to get a hold of me for commissions for yourself. Best place is usually my Etsy or my personal Instagram. Also works as well. Both are in the description. Just as a heads up, I don't usually give time frames because a lot of these commissions are just kind of like when I got a chance, I work on stuff. So as long as you're not in a hurry, definitely hit me up. If you're in a hurry, I could possibly make it work for you, but it'll probably be more monies. We also got a link in the description for Calcus Toys. If you guys like to help support the channel that way, they actually have the MechaGears up for pre-order, the new Hayas, which are the things I recommend getting off of them because you'll get them much sooner, and they're not too much more higher in price than the stateside stuff, but that also includes the shipping. So you always got to take that into consideration because it is free shipping technically, but you kind of pay for it up front. But I still really like them. You can save 6% off your order. Code SteveCalcus at checkout. I just got my Beast Glove gone in as of this recording, and that video will be coming out pretty soon, I would imagine, after this one. But anyway, see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye. Oh yeah, also we got a Patreon. Support. Discord. The person that got these done actually are on our Discord. So it's really easy to communicate with me. And we also show off stuff. And it's a lot easier if you're doing ideas too. Another, again, good way to support the channel. Anyways, bye-bye.